What's up, guys, and welcome back into Breaking Boards, and welcome to another episode of What If. In this one, we're going to talk about how maybe the most important rounds in your drafts are in the later portions of your drafts on DraftKings. We're going to talk about what if the back that you need for the Los Angeles Chargers is not Omarion Hampton. We're going to talk about what if the worst tight end pick on the board is Trey McBride. And we're going to hear for the first time what if somebody really doesn't like Bijan Robinson. I'm here with my guys, Michael, Ben, and Adam, and we're going to break through each one of these. And first up, we're going to talk about rounds 14 through 18. Take it away, Adam.
What if I told you that rounds 14 through 18 are where you can make money? That is where your make or break can be. What if I told you that was a possibility? Well, it is, and it's not necessarily because of who you draft, but it's because of how you draft and who you don't draft. We get in this complex reality of we've done our draft and now we're going down for loose change at the end. Okay. We're trying to get people that feel good to us, that are comfortable, people of names that we know. They might be down on the depth chart or something like that, but we know their names. We've seen them play. We're comfortable with them. But you can't be drafting like that. You can't be drafting for knowing that person or having like exclusively saying, "Hey, this is my guy. I got to get him. He's on my team. I got to get him," because that's going to lose you money at the end of the day. That's going to make it where you can't make money going forward. Also, another thing is you got to not think about who is down on the depth chart. If you say that somebody is like third string coming up and and you're like, hey, by the end of the year, they're going to be a starter, or my team's going to be out of contention, or this team's going to be out of contention, and this guy's going to be the running back that's going to run. You can't draft like that. You draft like that, you will lose money. How you do need to draft though is you need to draft by your stacks. You need to focus on who you have stacked and what quarterbacks you have already in place. Put people around them. A late third or fourth string receiver, a second tight end. You need to put those people in your stacks around you. You also need to draft people who are going to play week 15, 16, and 17, especially week 17, which is your championship week, because that's when you're going to make your money. We know some teams that are not probably going to make the playoffs. Okay, we do. It's just the way the Jets are they going to make the playoffs? No. So you can stack some people down the back end of them because they're going to play. They're going to play for contracts. They're going to play for money. They're going to play for a way out of there. You know, these are things you got to think about when you're drafting in this rounds 14 through 18. Okay. Don't think about, like I said, don't think about who you like or what you need to do or people that you think might start. Draft logically and get to where you need to be. There's also one more. We don't we draft in that area, and then sometimes people will come ask you, well, why did you draft that player? Well, if you don't have a reason why, then was it good? Probably not. It's probably not gonna make any money. Just remember that. 14 through
I got
18.
to throw it.
That's
I
gonna be
got to
your
throw
money.
it to Ben. I got to throw it to Ben. I'm looking at his face, and Ben's like, I ain't believing a word this guy's saying. Ben, you got
I
anything on rounds 14 through 18?
I tend to disagree with that. I kind of go with gut feeling when it gets to that round because I mean you don't really know how half these guys are going to perform in the first place. I mean, yeah,
It
like
isn't.
you said, you can throw stacks together, you can do, but those are going to be back end players most of the time that you don't even know how they're going to do. I mean, for me, I'll throw in there Cyrus Allen, for crying out loud, just because.
He said round 14 through 18, not 20.
Yeah, no, 18, I probably
Cyrus will
would.
still be there.
Yeah, they probably would. But I mean, seriously, what I'm saying, it's gonna be your role players. So I mean, if you have a good feeling about somebody, I personally say, take them, go with it.
You lost me at role playing, but what I will say is is that there's some guys in that range I do like. Like, I think Brian Robinson Jr. is kind of sneaky, especially if Bijan goes down. Wink. Tank Bigsby is interesting if Saquon were to get hurt. Calvin Ridley is still not a complete zero, I don't think. Jerry Judy's in that range now. Fernando Mendoza could be a late season quarterback. Ryan Flournoy looked good to me last year, just watching him play for the Cowboys. If Pickens ends up holding out or whatever, Flournoy could be the steal of the draft. The Steelers' new wide receiver, Jeremy Bernard, high draft capital, could be all right. You got a lot of tight ends. Gunnar Helm, Kate Otten somehow is down there, which I love taking Kate Otten. I think he's my most known tight end.
Is Zachariah Branch still down there?
Zachariah Branch is there making some plays in practice. Darnell Washington on underdog is in that kind of range where he's a big touchdown guy. Freiermuth is there. There's a lot of guys that that are my guys, I guess you'd say, that I'm feeling in that range. There's also a lot of landmines that you're going to hit where you're just going to take a guy was it Desmond Claiborne or whatever for Minnesota? He could be really great if Mason's terrible. He could be an absolute zero for the entire year because they just keep running Mason into the back of the line and throwing balls out wide to Aaron Jones. Katron Allen, we talked about in our video on Monday, and just talked about how he's more of a plotter. He's probably not going to get you a lot of fantasy points on DraftKings. So there's a lot of guys that are just like Ben was saying, I don't know what the hell I'm getting in that range. I just like to take the guys who have some type of contingent value. And then as you get later in the draft, like round 20 that Michael was talking about, I like taking guys that aren't 100% drafted. A lot of guys will just take the ADP's here. I'm going to take whoever because they have an ADP inside of 240. I'm more of the scroll down. And if I can get Cole Kmet, which nobody's drafting, or Michael Mayer, and if you get an injury to Loveland or you get an injury to Brock Bowers, not only did you jump the field that didn't draft him to begin with, you draft the field that did draft Brock Bowers and who drafted Colson Loveland. So there's just ways to play it that I think are, intelligent ways to go about it. And then there's some plays that we're all just going to be throwing darts and hoping for the best.
And let's think about how I paraphrase it. You can make money in this range. You're not going to necessarily lose it because up top, you're going to lose money if you draft wrong. But the way you draft down here is where you can make money.
I'm not necessarily going to disagree with that. I think that's probably logical, but I think you have to get it predominantly all right, and especially in these large field tournaments.
You do. And also, go throw in a shameless plug here for us, but if you're not sure what you're doing or how to do it, jump on our website and use our tools. That's what they're there for. They're to help you make your decisions. Go look at the QR code, scan that, and jump on there.
Michael, you got anything on rounds 2 through 76 or whatever it was we were talking about?
This is where I like to go, the all free agent team. Tyreek Hill, Stephon. I'm just kidding. No, I agree. It's a good spot to get some value and maybe think outside the box and kind of look at guys that you like or that you feel have an opportunity. It probably won't break you, but like Adam said, it might make your team to get somebody that plays even a handful of games for you just randomly down there. There's definitely an educated guess of going towards it versus just going with the field versus ADP.
I think another aspect too is try to take the guys who you think jump the board if something breaks their way. If Diggs signs with Atlanta, if Debo signs with Atlanta, if Saquon gets hurt in practice, if Bijan gets hurt in practice, try to get the guys who, when shit breaks, they're going to jump. How high are you taking Cole Kmet if Colson Loveland tears his ACL tomorrow? How high are you taking
13th or 14th round?
Yeah. How high are you taking Michael Mayer if Brock Bowers is out for the season?
Yeah.
Guys like that where you're just all right, if X happens, then this guy's going to jump 5, 6, 7, 10 rounds. First, all right, if Bill Krosky-Merritt gets hurt tomorrow, I don't really view Katron Allen that different. Sure, maybe he moves up and he's draftable at that point. But from a overall, hey, I think this guy can win me this season, I'm just kind of meh, no matter how, which way it breaks. If Pickens holds out, Flournoy is going to jump. A lot of the guys I talked about earlier, I try to see contingent value before I need it. It's almost, I think about it almost like the handcuff running back. If you played fantasy 10 years ago, everybody would draft, whatever starting running back and then whoever was their immediate backup. But like some of these guys they're not going to get on the field enough unless you have 2, 3, 4 things that go wrong and it breaks right for them. Or you take a guy like Mendoza and you hope Kirk Cousins, goes in debt with his Coles cash and they come lock him up. And now you got Mendoza starting 10, 11 games and the ones that actually matter at the end of the season. So I think it's about how you play it, not necessarily who you play, but who you play is important also because you need to see what's coming. We ready to move on to player number 2?
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Let's talk about what if Omarion Hampton is just not really that great of a pick in round 2.
So what if Omarion Hampton finishes outside the top 20 for running backs, but everybody's drafting him like a true RB1? I'm not saying Hampton's a bad player, but I actually think he is a talented running back, but my concern is where he's being drafted and expectations in fantasy. Like, people are drafting him like he's already done this before. He's already been a 1,500-yard back with double-digit touchdowns. I think right now Hampton's coming off the board as RB9 in drafts, which is, I think, like the 16th pick, 15th pick or something like that overall. I think when I look at the other running backs in that range, he has the most question marks over any of them. I think one of my bigger concerns too, and we've touched on it in other videos, his pass blocking wasn't exactly great last year, and I think that's going to potentially hinder him from being on the field all 3 downs. They've gone out and they've gotten Keaton Mitchell, they've gotten Vidal, who ran the ball last year for him. Like, it really feels like everybody's sitting here thinking that Hampton's going to be a workhorse back, and the way that backfield's constructed doesn't really feel like it to me. So that would be my bigger concerns there. I think you're drafting that RB9 range. I think there's a lot of wide receivers I would rather have in that round 2 where he's being drafted. There's actually a lot of other running backs I'd rather have who have done it before. And, that's not to say he can't do it. I just feel like everybody's drafting Hampton like they know what he's going to do. And I just wasn't impressed enough last year, I think. Now, I do get that their line was a little bit banged up the entire year, and now they've got McDaniels there as OC. But if you recall, even McDaniels' first few years, he ran kind of a 2 running back situation. I mean, what did they have? Mostert and A-Chain there for a while. I mean, now you're finally seeing A-Chain get RB1 duties last year. I foresee them doing that again here. I mean, they've just got too many guys in the stable to just sit there and rely on Hampton. You go back and look at Hampton. He scored 5 touchdowns in 9 games last year, which isn't a terrible number, but it's not exactly a number that I'm like, okay, that's exciting for me. Like, maybe he touches 8 to 10 touchdowns this year, but I don't feel like it's a guarantee. And then you talk about your draft strategy, essentially. Like, I think this is my biggest reason for fading Hampton is going back. You do have a bunch of wide receivers right there. And, every year wide receiver depth dries up quickly. So when you go and take him in the second round, he's not a surefire RB1, in my opinion. Like, you can find running backs 3 or 4 rounds later that I think are going to put up similar numbers. I mean, you've got Bucky down there. I mean, shoot, even Scatterboo with New York. I mean, those type guys I kind of favor a little more than Hampton just based off their backfields and the lack of competition. So I think I'd rather lock in a high-end receiver there and let Hampton fall and let somebody else pay that premium. I think if you could get Hampton, I think as we talked about before with like Jeremiah Love, like if you get Hampton in the 3rd or 4th round, I think there's a ton of value there. But I don't want to burn my 2nd round pick on a guy that I don't even feel like can be a running back 1, let alone I think could potentially finish out of the top 20. So I think that concludes my what if on Hampton, him finishing outside the top 20. I just think there's other better options that are less risky.
Adam, Ben, you guys got anything to add on Omarion Hampton?
Yeah, you go first. Okay, well, okay.
No, I'm deferring to you because you're the Harbaugh guy. Yeah.
Well, Fuller, you left out a very important aspect of your insightfulness. The Chargers always let you down. Every single season, their offense is expected to be very good, but then for some other reason, it turns mediocre. And
Are you
right
saying
now,
that things could get messy?
it could. And for right now with Hampton, everybody's paying for his ceiling, what they're hoping he's going to do. And for me, I'm not paying that, like you said, premium price for him right now because we don't really know what his ceiling is. He's never done it yet or shown even close. So yeah, I'm skipping on Hampton at his ADP right now.
I think it's one of those things too. Like, I don't hate Omarion Hampton. I don't give a shit if he's the best player in the NFL or the worst player in the NFL. Best of luck to him. I hope he is the best player in the NFL. But like, best ball and fantasy, it's all about the price you're paying for the production. Like, there's nothing against the person, Omarion Hampton. I don't know the guy. He doesn't know me. He doesn't give a shit that I exist. I mean, he's a millionaire. But from my perspective, it's just paying the price tag on a guy that, we haven't seen it before. It's likely if I had to guess with Harbaugh and everything else, Mike McDaniel, I assume it's a 3 backfield. Harbaugh likes Kamani Vidal. He's not just going to kick him out of there for no reason. He's going to be annoying if you got Omarion Hampton or even if you have Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell's got more of a role. He's going to be the pass catching guy. But I don't know if Keaton Mitchell's that great of a pass blocker. So like, you're probably getting Keaton Mitchell on second down receiving the ball, but on third down, it might be Kamani Vidal in there just eating up a bunch of snaps. Or they trust him in 2-minute and 4-minute drills. And this is a team that should be playing close. That defense was the 4th best defense in the NFL last year. So, like, they're not going to be out there. I don't think they're going to be throwing it all over the field. I think they'll be efficient when they do throw it. But, I mean, if I'm taking a guy like Hampton, I'm taking him over on Underdog on a site where I need touchdowns versus drafting him in the second round. Like, who do we think has more output in December? Derrick Henry, a guy who's done it 407 million times? Or are we thinking that Omarion Hampton's the guy this year? Like, I get that Henry's old. Or like Chase Brown, who's his competition? Samaj P. Ryan? Like, I like Keaton Mitchell and Kamani Vidal a lot more than I like Samaj P. Ryan. There's a lot of guys in that range. I just think you're paying the price tag for the upside of Omarion Hampton. There's not really much room for him to move up the board and be the number one guy in the NFL. So for me, I'm taking a wait and see approach. If he falls 5-6 picks past ADP, I'll jump in there and take some just so I don't have 0. But like, he's not a player that I'm worried about sending me home in the playoffs, getting 2, 3, 4 touchdowns on a team that's they're just not built like that.
I think too, you think of everybody's floor in that range, and everybody else's floor in that range just feels so much higher. Like, okay, so maybe Derrick Henry doesn't do Derrick Henry things, but you still think you're still going to get production out of him. Like, you get halfway through the season, Hampton may be RB2, RB3 on that team by the time you get halfway. Like, he's not done enough. He's only got 9 games played. Like, he's not done enough to sit there and seal his fate as RB1 there. So, I mean, when like you said, you got guys like Chase Brown who are in an actually functioning offense in which everyone can see. You've got Derrick Henry in an offense that's committed to running the ball. Like, those guys are going after him. Like, if I was taking a running back there, I would take those guys over him, but I'm probably going to go wide receiver anyway.
I mean, Drake London, A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Brock Bowers, Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown. I don't really like A-Chain, but he's in that range. Even if I'm bumping up a guy like Rashee Rice, I view Hampton more in the Rashee Rice range anyways. So, like, I have Hampton at 21 in my ranks. He's going off the board at 15. If I'm reading 15 to 21, it's Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, Derrick Henry, Brock Bowers, A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, and then Hampton. So, like, there's a ton of dudes there that I'm taking above Hampton.
I think if you want to run and put a future bet on Omarion Hampton as the leading rusher in NFL, you should go do that because we are all in agreement here on this panel. And Omarion Hampton's floor, as you said, Michael, it is probably the shakiest of all the people you can get in that range. And that's no knock or no quip on how he is in California, and it does shake out there a lot. But he cannot. If he goes down again, his injury already what he's had a couple of times last year, and then just the output he may have. I mean, Harbaugh likes a hot hand, and if somebody's running good, like Keaton Mitchell or like Vidal, Omarion Hampton may not see the field at times.
Well, I get a little uneasy too when a rookie running back misses 7-8 games his first year, because I mean that's going to be the least amount of tread he has on him. I'm not saying he's going to get hurt all the time, but it's not a good omen for the career to start off missing games year one for running back.
I know we say we can't draft with the thought of injuries, but at the same time, we can't just dismiss it. We can't.
Well, it's a team that like they could play big this year too. They went out and signed Charlie Collier to like not a very small contract. That dude got paid. They got David Njoku. They got Gadsden. They got Quentin Johnston. They got Trey Harris that they trust a little bit. They got Ladd McConkey. I mean, they got guys. So I just think it's one of the offenses that like, if I have a Chargers playoff future, I'm feeling pretty good about it. If I own anybody individually on the Chargers, I just expect that the love is going to get spread around quite a bit in that offense. And I don't think anybody's going to like, blow away their ADP for the Chargers. And the only player that really that would be meaningful would be a guy like Vidal or Njoku, who are going in the last round. And if Gaston gets hurt, or if Mitchell or Hampton get hurt, then those guys could step up. But I think everybody else is just like, you're paying sticker price for the vehicle. And, I think with Omarion Hampton, you're going to have a little bit of sticker shock. Ready to move on to player number 3, and let's talk about one of the guys that is a top 5 pick on your board, was the number 1 overall pick, but maybe Ben thinks he's not even top 5 anymore. Take it away, Ben.
Still is on mine.
Let's talk about Bijan Robinson. Okay, I know there's going to be a lot of pushback, comments, whatever on this one, I think. What if he is not even a top 5 fantasy player this year? I mean, let's look at it. I mean, he had a great season last year. He finished with over 2,200 scrimmage yards, caught 79 passes, totaled more than 100 targets, and scored 11 touchdowns. I mean, great season. But like we've talked on this show before, after a great monster season, there's usually regression. So what if, let's talk about the touchdowns first. What if the 11 touchdowns, which is good, but if Atlanta struggles in the red zone or simply has some bad luck, which, I mean, Falcon's going to Falcon, that number could easily go to 8 or 9. 3 fewer touchdowns doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 18 fantasy points going immediately. Now let's talk on receiving. Bijan caught 79 passes. It's one of the biggest reasons he finished near the top. But what happens if Atlanta doesn't throw to him quite as much? I mean, that whole offense, that whole team, they're in flux. They just signed Pitts to a huge deal, So what if they decide to use him more than Bijan this year? Just because they feel like they have to. Maybe the quarterback tries to push the ball downfield. I'm not going to say either quarterback is very good at doing that, because there's not really they don't really have a deep speed receiver. I mean, Drake London is good, but he's not a burner. He's not going to burn you downfield. And even if he doesn't catch 79 passes and only 65, that's another 25 to 35 fantasy points going. And suddenly you're talking about a player who's still fantastic, but no longer giving you a first-round advantage. Here's the biggest point. Bijan doesn't actually have to get worse. Everyone else can just get better. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, what if Bijan finishes running back 7 and Chase finishes wide receiver 1? What if Jefferson has a monster season? What if Gibbs scores 20 touchdowns? Suddenly, your first-round pick wasn't a bust, but he still wasn't special enough to win you your best ball tournament. That's how you lose. You don't lose because your first round pick was terrible. You lose because someone else's first round pick was legendary. So, am I fading Bijan completely? No, of course not. That'd be stupid. He's still one of the safest running backs in fantasy, but there's a huge difference between being safe and returning value at pick 2 or 3 overall.
Spoken like a person who never gets the first or second pick in the draft. I can't get behind it personally. Like barring injury, I just don't see it for me. But that's okay because that happens to the best of us with disagreements in this.
Two things jumped to the top of my mind. Whenever Ben was talking about whatever he was talking about, I assume it was that he loves the chicken from Popeyes. What I did, because I knew the slander that was coming, I went on and I just went ahead and placed an order for some food. I got a Mexican chopped salad, some fries headed my way. So, yeah, I missed like 90% of what Ben was talking about. It seemed like he didn't love Bijan Robinson. I know that probably stems from the fact that last week when we recorded this show, Ben and I got a little bit of heat about maybe your takes aren't bold enough and maybe you guys need to step it up some. And so I think he stepped, but I think he like fell into a crevasse and like plummeted 200,000 feet. And I get the case of not drafting him number 1 overall, but I think if you have more than like 5 fantasy teams and you don't have some level of Bijan Robinson, whenever you watch him play, you're probably like, it's hard to squeeze a penny in your butthole with a sledgehammer. I know Sam Sherman, the guy who won $2 million on, I think it was 2.2 million over on Underdog last year, would agree with me because I think he was up like 30 fantasy points, and it was clear Bijan wasn't even a player he was worried about. And then you look up, Bijan had scored 2 touchdowns, and he was like, "Oh shit, here comes this guy to take my $2 million." But I think he cleared by like 1 point. Adam, you got anything hate or love wise on Bijan Robinson?
I just know that, again, going back to Ben, sitting beside him on my birthday and watching Bijan do bad things to his team might make him feel a certain way about somebody. So I'm going to put this in the personal bank for him and not feel like it's necessarily a professional take in this situation. Sometimes we get that way. It's okay. I don't see there's always a possibility Bijan will not be a top 5 in the year fantasy point getter. And I mean, what are we doing? Are we talking about running back position, or are we talking about overall?
Top 5 as a whole.
Top 5 as a whole. Well, most quarterbacks are going to score, more. I mean, are we?
Well, I think position players.
Yeah, but
he's picking all the nits, ain't he?
Okay. I'm just trying to
top 5. Hold on.
I got 7 quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
Top 5 non-quarterback player. Okay, I get it, but there's a possibility he may not, but that's a possibility. I mean, we cannot be drafting like that. We cannot be drafting with the thought that he's gonna have some, because barring an injury, barring a suspension, and there's no suspension for him. Didn't
jinx that.
No, my God. Thanks a lot. For that comment.
There it goes now, yeah.
Barring anything like that, I mean, he could play quarterback for this team if he needed to, and he has in the past. So he'll get his touches, he'll get his points, and that team is going to be in the playoff hunt going down to the wire. And so come best ball playoff time, he's going to be working. You're going to need him.
Yeah, I mean, granted, if I had a top 3 pick, well, if I was at pick number 3, I would take Bijan because I'm taking Chase first overall. So,
and I think if you Ben's gotten enough hate for this, but if you are not drafting Bijan, if you're on Ben's take and you're like, you know what, this guy is going to regress some. If you're not taking him, you should have like 70% Brian Robinson on your best ball teams. Like if you draft Gibbs 1 and 2 and 3 every time you can get him, and you're just out on Bijan, you should have a ton of Brian Robinson, because I assume if Bijan fails, Brian Robinson is going to have at least better than pick 168 season.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to the rounds that we were talking about earlier, like that's a guy that another contingent value that, if this plays out correctly, it's probably Bijan Robinson that is the guy that immediately gets the payback. Maybe Zachariah Branch, another guy in that range, has a decent season as well. Is that all we got on Bijan?
That's it.
All right. I'll move on to my topic here. And what if Trey McBride is just undraftable at his current ADP? For me, McBride is not a talent fade. He's more of a price and roster construction fade. His current ADP is 23.8, and you're paying for another historically dominant season despite several variables going in the wrong direction, in my opinion, for McBride. You have the unresolved QB concerns. Is it Beck? Is it Brissett? Is it Minshew? Likely decline in Arizona's massive 2025 passing volume. They passed the ball about 50 times a game last year. Major investments in the running game. The guy we talked about on Monday, Jeremiah Love, Tyler Algier, Marvin Harrison Jr., his return. What does that mean? Who knows? Could be a 0, could be something. Likely touchdown regression. 11 touchdowns in 2025, 6 total in the 3 years before that. 2022, 2023, 2024 combined, a total of 6 touchdowns. He's integrating a new offensive system, new coaching staff in Arizona, and the opportunity cost overall of skipping on a top-end wide receiver or running back in best ball. The bearish case for McBride is that he's coming off a record-setting season, 126 receptions, 33 red zone targets, and he ran nearly every route in the NFL that Arizona ran in the NFL in 2025. My concern is that you're paying for past production. You're paying cost for what McBride just did last year. You're paying costs for McBride's ceiling. For him to pay off this current cost, and you're paying for his ceiling outcomes again, and you need him to have just an insane projectable output for 2026, and I don't have that in my models. My Sims account for an approximate decline for McBride of around 20% in 2026. We still project him for 260.8 fantasy points in 2026. With that, his appropriate ADP is 28 to 32, significantly behind tight end number 1, who I believe is Brock Bowers. And with the ideal construction of, your first 3 picks being a high-end running back, a wide receiver, and then if you get McBride falling back to you, I'd be more comfortable taking him in round 3. He's essentially a player I like. I don't like the cost, don't love the cost at all. I rank him in the 30s range. He'll be a slight fade for me at his current price, and unless his price readjusts, I'll be under the field on Trey McBride in 2026. What do you guys got?
Yeah, it kind of goes with the Hampton thing, we just discussed too. People are just taking him too high based on what he did last year. So I think his ADP should not be where it's at. I mean he is a good player, but then also the pieces around him are going to regress some, and he's going to regress. So I won't take him that high anyway. Later on, yes, definitely, but not as high as he is right now.
I personally think until Marvin Harrison, gets to where he needs to be, like literally needs to be, because he's nowhere near that yet, that they will Trey McBride's their, wide receiver 1, and they're going to bracket him in coverage, and it's going to make him a little bit more difficult to get receptions. And then whoever the quarterback is there is going to have to find second and third options, and then so his production is going to go down. And you can't draft that.
I think for me, I'm still more bullish on him than I think anybody else in the group. Like I view him as kind of 1B to Bowers this year. I mean, I think Bowers does have I think he makes a big jump since he was hurt last year. And I do think that McBride has some regression, but I'd still be hard pressed to put Loveland over McBride at this point. And I think it does come down to roster construction too. Like if I can get McBride like middle 3rd round, late 3rd round, which I actually have a couple times, like I don't mind that one. I don't know that I want to use my second pick on McBride late in the second. Like it feels like if you miss out on a wide receiver, running back, or double wide receiver in those first 2 rounds, like it just feels like you're always playing catch up with your roster the rest of the draft.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is I've done like 100 drafts now, and every time I take even Bowers, I love Bowers. If we were ranking like overall who I would want, Bowers would be a first round pick for me. But even the rosters where I get him, and I look back at the end of the roster, I'm like, I really missed out on Drake London, Saquon, Ashton Genty, Kenneth Walker, one of those guys that I could have gotten that probably going to have a lot more say in my roster versus the tight end. And unfortunately, at the end of the draft, a lot of the picks that I do like are tight ends. There's not a lot of projectable volume at the end of the draft this year. And unfortunately, it comes in the form of like K-Dot and Pat Fryermuth, those types of guys. So me, I'm skipping on tight end until at least round 3, and even I don't love it in 3. So my range is typically like Dalton Kincaid, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, those types of guys. Is that all we got on Trey McBride?
Well, I was going to ask Michael, what's the reasoning behind you liking him so much, where we all kind of, are fading him?
I just don't think he's going to have the amount of regression you guys do. I think yardage and catches, he'll be similar. I don't think he'll have as many TDs as last year. I mean, he had 11. I think he'll be more in like 7 or 8. But I mean, like, if you're projecting Bowers, like, I still think they finish very close to each other by the end of the year. Like, I think McBride has the chance to probably get a few more receptions. Bowers is a little more prolific, I think, in his pass catching. I think he'll have more yards. And I do think Bowers is probably a better red zone tight end. Just from watching him, I think he's got better body control when it comes in handy there in the red zone. Like, he's going to go up. He can make some contorted catches. Like, I think he's going to get those touchdowns. I don't think it's such a drop off between Bowers and McBride that you go, okay, I like Bowers at 20, but I don't like McBride until he gets to 40 or 35 or whatever. Like, I don't think there's that much of a drastic drop off if you like Bowers at 20 or in that range.
I think Loveland is actually the number 2 tight end.
I think yards per catch. I can get behind you on yards per catch, but Loveland's not going to catch 110 passes in that offense. I mean, this is 2 straight years that McBride has had 111, 126 catches. He had 81 the year before. Like, he's going to get close to 100 catches. I have no doubt about that. Loveland, I think, will be in the 70 catch range, but he'll have way higher yards per catch. Like, I mean, what is McBride sitting at for his career? 10 yards a catch. Loveland feels like more of a seam stretching tight end that's going to probably average 14 to 15 a catch. I don't see him getting a lot of like screens or short little passes that he goes and takes for 10, 15 yards at a time. It's just not the way I think they're going to use him.
I got to be honest, too. I just like the whole roster construction of Chicago this year, just personally.
I do, too. I mean, I like Luther Burden a lot. I like him higher than his ADP. I mean, honestly, what is Loveland's ADP now? Like 38? 41. I mean, for that range, it's good value because you're talking late 3rd, early 4th round. So you may have already gone like 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and a running back, 2-1 somewhere. So I mean, like at that point, it feels a little more. It feels better for your roster because it feels like Loveland has the upside that he can get there. I'm not sure he will, but when you skip out on a wide receiver or running back in that range, you really don't feel like you have those options after round 3 or 4 that you're going to find a guy that can put up similar numbers to those guys, personally.
I think I just had $1 million idea. Maybe this is something to like for underdog or somebody like that. So how many fantasy points do you think Brock Bowers scores PPR in 2026?
280, 300.
What about Trey McBride?
260, 280, somewhere in there. I don't think it's going to be that far off.
What about Loveland?
270.
Loveland 280, 290. Yeah.
I don't have Loveland that high. I don't think he gets there.
Loveland's going to have about 15 touchdowns this year. So.
He's not going to have 15 touchdowns this year. You know what? That's your what if next week.
I was trying to work out how do we throw $100 in here against each other?
If everybody plays 17 games, I don't think Loveland finishes ahead of McBride or Bowers.
I think Bowers is probably sitting at 290. I think McBride is probably 260. I think Loveland's probably 245.
Here's my other point. Who on Oakland's going to take Brock Bowers' targets?
Genty, Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor.
Yeah, I'm not
Michael Mayer.
really. Okay,
They
now
could.
now go look at the Bears offense and tell me who you can spread that around to.
I mean, Roma Dunze might be hurt, like career hurt, and this is a regime that didn't take Roma Dunze, so they're not going to be high on
They're
him.
taking the Juju Smith-Schuster route. You say he could spontaneously combust at any time, and then he puts up one more 100-catch season with 1,100 yards, and then completely falls off the map.
I
It's
mean,
going to be Burton, Swift, and Loveland.
and
Like those are the
Caleb,
guys I like in that offense.
Caleb likes to check it down a lot. He either likes to air it out or check it down.
Yeah, but I think that benefits Swift and Burt.
I've seen more Swift and Loveland on that one.
Yeah, I think you're selling it. I think you're selling it on Loveland. I think Loveland's definitely like if we're ranking, which I did. If you want to go check out the site again, breakingboardsdfs.com, there's a tight end article up that I wrote up the top 24 tight ends. But in my rankings, like it's tier 1, Brock Bowers. That's the only name. Tier 2, Loveland, McBride, and then tier 3 it drops off again. I think the gap between Bowers and McBride is bigger than the gap between McBride and Loveland.
I think it's the opposite. I think McBride's closer to Bowers than Loveland is to McBride.
I don't think there's so much a gap between all three of them, but I think when you get down to it, you can potentially pay too high for Bowers and McBride, and you have Loveland there for yourself. But then that's just how I view it, because I view that you can get, when you put the construction together all together, receivers, running backs, tight end right there in the first 3-4 rounds, your point production's going to maximize if you get Loveland in the 4th round, and then you can get two top running backs and a receiver, or vice versa. So.
See, I still like Tyler Warren in the 60s. That's who I would prefer to have, just from like a constructability standpoint.
I don't know if I trust the quarterback.
I mean, he's got Daniel Jones coming back, and he was putting up 15 a game with Daniel Jones QB last year.
Which Daniel Jones are we getting? Are we getting Indiana Jones, or are we getting?
No, I think you're getting the same Jones you got last year. I think he came off of a shitty New York Giants team. The same way you look at like Sam Darnold, he does terrible because he plays for 2 terrible franchises in the Jets and Panthers, and then all of a sudden he gets decent coaching and he wins a Super Bowl 2 years later. Like, I'm not saying Daniel Jones will do that, but Daniel Jones has a lot of ability that I can see that Tyler Warren is going to be fed in that offense. So, I mean, if I can get him in the 6th or 7th round, I like that better, especially because that gives me the ability to get 3 or 4 wide receivers, 2 or 3 running backs before I get there. So with a guy who they use kind of like as a gadget guy on the goal line, like they'll let him do a little tight end reverse. Like, I mean, you've got some options to get touchdowns with him.
Tyler Warren is a tough one for me to get to. I like the player. I prefer him on Underdog versus DraftKings, but in that range, it's kind of like you either get ahead of the QB avalanche or you get behind it. And I'd rather have like Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Jalen Hurts. Like if you got pairing options with those guys, it's hard to skip on them for a tight end. Especially when I don't view that massive. Like if I'm projecting Tyler Warren for 2026, I'm probably at like 170, 175 fantasy points. But I think you can get like 6 rounds later, you can get Goddard. That's probably 140. Kincaid's probably 130, 140. Ferguson's probably 130. There's just a lot of guys that I can get. Like, I mean, Kittle's down there.
I probably like Goddard. I don't know that I love all the other ones. Kittle, I know we talk about injuries, but he misses time every single season. Like, that's my only knock against Kittle.
He also gives you like those 30-point games, though, that are tough to get from tight ends.
And then dies soon after. Yes.
Yeah, he's not. If you draft a 1 tight end team, you're not getting by with Kittle.
Yeah.
No.
But if you miss and you go Kittle's Andrew, Kittle's likely, I feel like pretty good about those, 2 tight end builds versus like if I take McBride and miss on Nico or another wide receiver in that range, like I'd rather just grab 2 tight ends later. I don't have very much McBride. I probably won't have very much McBride. It's weird how like in best ball, all the players I loved last year are the players I'm like, nah, I'm not taking any of those guys this year.
They're higher ADP this year, so it's
Yeah.
a different in value, right? Like,
So looking back, I mean, I'm like, hell yeah, pat on my back. I was right about evaluating the players last year because like I was high on McBride, I was high on CMC, I was high on Jonathan Taylor, I was high on James Cook.
I mean, I
But
suppose
now,
what was McBride last year in the 40s for ADP?
I think it was
Probably.
like 36 to 40, something like that, if I'm
Yeah.
not remembering correctly. I mean, like when draft started, CMC was around 3 pick, and I was beating the drum. And I mean, I even argued in our little group thread. I was like, hey, this is CMC year. And everybody, no, he's going to get hurt. I don't know. Jonathan Taylor, I was high on Jonathan Taylor, really high on James Cook because he was like a 5th or a 6th round pick. But it's just these guys this year, we should do an episode where we do our guys. We pick one guy per position that we're like super high on and just throw out those takes. Is that all we got, guys?
I think so.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you got anything out of the video, if you made it this far, drop a like, subscribe. A lot of work goes into this. Turn on the notification bell. If you want to scan the QR code and head over to our site, breakingboardsdfs.com, up on your screen now. Scan that, head over. Got a lot of tools over there you can check out for free. And we have some ranks up as well. $10 one-time purchase. We're not going to drain your bank account or anything like that. But you can upload those right into DK and draft alongside our ranks. Probably be updating those later on this week as well. So if you guys want to go check those out and have some ranks for your drafts. But again, appreciate everybody checking us out. Check out Man vs. Him that came out on Monday at 4. Obviously, this episode's coming out on Wednesdays at 4 moving forward. And then we'll be doing some live drafts throughout the week as well. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.